Welcome to episode 20 of the Cals Report. I'm Will Reese, Cals Director. This episode takes us inside one of the most important and evolving areas in college athletics, revenue generation. In the lobby, Quinn Kavanagh, Associate AD of Development at Tennessee, leads a thoughtful and candid conversation on what revenue development actually looks like today. He's joined by two people who've had a major impact on his career: his former boss, Denson Hollis, CEO of the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation, and his current boss, Brady Hart, Chief Revenue Officer at Tennessee. It's an honest and informative conversation, not just for those working directly in revenue generation, but for anyone in college athletics trying to better understand how it all works behind the scenes. Thanks for joining us for the Cals Report, where the conversation continues long after the event ends. Hey, Will here. Thanks for joining us. Episode 20 of the Cals Report. Hard to believe we're 20 episodes in. We so appreciate everybody that's followed us, watched, listened, commented, encouraged us. We've had a blast doing this and have a lot of great content, timely content, great leaders in college athletics and beyond coming as we move forward. And we're super excited. Big thanks to Ryan Bradley, everybody that's played a part in making it possible. Also, Cals One Day, June 4th, Atlanta, Georgia, hosted by Ryan Albert and Georgia Tech Athletics. It's our regional summer event. This is year number 5 for us. Bring your department. You can bring anywhere from 1 to 10, 11 to 20, or 20 plus members. Go to AD Symposium to register to get more information on the event. We're going to have a great lineup of speakers. Going to roll that agenda out soon. So please go ahead and check that out. We'd love for you to join us in Atlanta. Have a great group signed up at this point. So with that, we'll get to Quinn, Denson, and Brady in the lobby.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lobby segment of the Cals Report podcast. My name's Quinn Kavanagh, Associate Athletics Director for Major Gifts here with Tennessee Athletics. Joined by two great gentlemen here today, Brady Hart with Tennessee and Denson Hollis. If you guys could both introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role.
I'll go first. Quinn, thanks for having us. My name is Brady Hart. I am the Chief Revenue Officer, Deputy AD and Chief Revenue Officer at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah, thanks, Quinn. Denson Hollis, CEO of the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation and Chief Development Officer for Ole Miss Athletics. I can go ahead and start off a little bit with my current role. So I oversee the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation. In a couple of weeks, we'll have our 23rd and 24th employee. So I lead that unit. Our sole mission is to drive external resources to support the athletic department. OMAF is made up of Major Gifts, Annual Fund, Finance, Donor Experience Team, and Premium Services. And in addition to our mission, my job is just to drive the culture of our office to support Ole Miss Athletics the best we can.
In my role, similar to Denson, I've got background in fundraising. So in my role with the Tennessee Fund, we're doing a lot of those same things, trying to generate private philanthropic resources to support our coaches and our teams, making their athletic dreams and ambitions come through at the University of Tennessee.
Amazing. So everyone's path to their current positions a little bit different. Brady, can you start by telling us how you kind of got here to Tennessee in the deputy role in your current status?
Yes, like I mentioned, my career and background is in the fundraising world, and was fortunate enough to get my start at Long Beach State as an intern, probably pretty typical to many in this industry and in this business. Was able to latch on to to Vic Seglis and Bill Brady out there at Long Beach State. Want to make sure I give them a shout out, but they really gave me my opportunity, a great opportunity it was to sleep on a futon and make no money, but it was great to crack into this sports business. And so I owe a lot to them, and then kind of graduated through there, did grad school at Ohio University, got over to, I left out of Ohio University and was able to attach on to what I think is the best athletic director in the country, and Denny White. And I had a entry-level fundraising role at the University of Buffalo, and went throughout many of the positions in a fundraising office, annual fund, premium seating, major giving. And so I got to do a lot, wear a lot of hats at Buffalo, moved to UCF, spent a lot more time doing premium seating, but we were in-house with all of our revenue generating operations. So was able to span across premium seating, corporate partnerships, and fundraising, dabble a little bit across all those revenue arms, revenue engines. Moved over to Pitt in a major gift role, number 2 in major gifts, leader of the major gift team, and then transitioned over here to the University of Tennessee. Came in as a fundraiser, and we've had a lot of positive attrition in my 5 years here, have had numerous leaders of industry move on to become athletic directors at other institutions. And as such, that's promoted internal positive attrition and positive growth that I've and others, but certainly I have benefited from. And that gets me into my deputy AD role, doing a little bit more across all of our revenue avenues here, not just fundraising, and then the sport administrator for our football program.
For the sake of this podcast, I'm probably a good counterbalance to Brady's career path. I grew up an hour from Oxford, went to Ole Miss, graduated in 2002, and identified when I was in college that I wanted to work at Ole Miss, specifically in athletics. Back then, there really wasn't a pretty straightforward career path to get into athletics, so I was really kind of shooting in the dark. A guy at the Loyalty Foundation, which is what it was called back then, told me about the sports management program at Georgia Southern University. I had no concept of what that was like, but I knew I was interested in going off to grad school, since I came to Ole Miss from an hour away and was really like going to 13th grade, but which is what I wanted. I mean, I'm one of 18 people in my family to go to Ole Miss, so it was the only place I wanted to go. The whole time I was in grad school, I was applying for jobs all over the country. In addition to Ole Miss, I dealt with pretty much 8 years of rejection. I didn't get a job anywhere in fundraising or college athletics. So I moved to Nashville and worked for 3 years in sales and 3 different jobs, the whole time trying to come back to Ole Miss. Finally, in 2009, I was hired to come back and raise scholarships on the campus side. I thought I would do that for a couple years and then move over to athletics. I ended up being there for 11 years, eventually working my way up through multiple schools and then establishing and leading the principal gifts program. I enjoyed that side of it, but athletics was always my goal. And then in 2020, I was approached to lead the major gifts team at OMAF. Still wasn't quite apples to apples move salary wise. So I was very fortunate. The vice chancellor for development here bridge the gap between my current salary and what my new salary at athletics would be. And in return, I would still manage the top 12 relationships on the academic side. That got me over to athletics. I took that very seriously and raised a lot of money from those 12 people. And then in 2022, I was asked to lead the foundation for the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation. So I dropped that part and then have been here ever since. So, I established that goal early in college that I wanted to work for Ole Miss Athletics. And then it took me literally 20 years to get to that goal of leading the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation. So a lot of rejection along the way that I talked to students about a lot, but each rejection helped me get to where I am, and really fortunate to be in the spots where I always wanted to be.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. 2 different backgrounds, but you're both very talented, excelling, and have created some great teams around you. So once you've been in these roles for almost 5 years with these teams, how have you built that culture? Where do you kind of take that first step coming into a new place or coming into a new team? So what would you say was kind of the first step in identifying that culture and then building that culture out to have the talented teams that you do have?
Yeah, I can go ahead. So when I moved over to athletics, I was not new to Ole Miss, but I was new to athletics, so I had a lot to learn. So the first thing I did was, humble myself a lot and basically acted like a new person. Like I didn't know any of the ropes, which I didn't on the athletic side. I knew the donor relationships, but I think you have to come in and really be truly passionate about helping others succeed. Leading by example. I've always been someone very passionate about getting out and seeing donors and raising money. So I knew if I did that, it would kind of assert myself as someone that can raise money, can adapt to athletics. and then just being present in the office for that team. I've always looked at people on our team as, I want to help you get to where you are. So Chancellor Kayat told me a long time ago, always give someone credit when things go right and shoulder the blame when things go wrong. I've never forgotten that. But all those things together have helped me build the culture that I want to be a part of. And then for OMAF, when we hire new people, the main thing I look for is fit. How do you fit in with our office? How do you fit in with people? And then I want our office to be fun. We work in college athletics. It should be fun. So we expose our staff to a lot of the great things about working in athletics. And then hopefully, in turn, that makes people want to stay here and work here for a long time until Tennessee comes along and pokes your employee and takes me over next.
Yes, Denson, I will say you definitely do embody helping those get further in their career. And that's an example with Quinn. I know you were probably one of, if not the most supportive in helping Quinn take that next step in his career, even though he was obviously a superstar employee over there at Ole Miss. So we certainly appreciate that, but that's real life and real live examples of Denson embodying what he's talking about. I took a note when you were talking, something that really resonated with me. When I got here 5 years ago, we have an office of a similar size as Denson, and it was a big role for me. It was my first time leading an office and certainly leading that many people, leading an operation of that magnitude at an institution with so much rich tradition and history and success all over the map, athletically, a great academic institution, great fundraising success, great people that had come before me, people that are in AD chairs all over the country. And so I felt that honestly, early on, I felt that burden, but certainly pressure. And one of the things that was very important to me was to lead by example, to be out, be active. If I wanted the fundraising staff out there setting fundraising records, I wanted their activity to be high. I didn't want to just sit behind the desk with my feet up, collecting gift agreements from the biggest donors of the university that are going to give regardless of who's in my seat. So Denson, that really resonated with me. And I think it did. I've had staff members tell me that resonates when they're seeing you manage the office and in their mind do something that may be a couple years in their future or a couple steps ahead of where they're at, but you're also producing in terms of attainment and gifts closed at a rate that's similar to them, and that's their full-time job. I think it really helped earn credibility and trust and show the staff that I was not in it just for show. I was not in it to just boss people around. I was not in it to be the lazy new guy. I really wanted to be a part of it and energize them, hopefully, with leading by example and my actions. Another thing that happened, that happened here early on, we had a lot of staff turnover. And that a lot of it was organic. That's what happens when you get a new AD. Leadership change is common in our industry. And so everyone who's probably watching this, many of you at least have been a part of staff change, either president, chancellor, board of trustee level, all the way down to athletic director, head coach, etc. Change is constant. Change is a must, says the late great Pat Summitt. So we really embraced that. It gave us an opportunity to build from scratch a new team. And we did take that very seriously. And to echo what Denson said, we followed a pretty direct and strict model of who we wanted to bring onto our team. And really, we do work in college athletics. It's not surgery. It's not advanced medicine. It's not highly technical. It is athletics after all. And so that's how we go about hiring. We are very intentional about proactively recruiting. So we don't just source applications in the applicant pool. We go out and we proactively recruit the type of people we think we want onto our team and into our pools. And really we tell them that we can teach you and give you the concepts of what we're trying to do, the X's and O's, but we really just want problem solvers. We call it professional problem solvers. We want people that add value, and we want good people that treat their teammates well, thrive in a team environment. And that's really the fundamentals of what we look for. But we're very intentional throughout the interview process in trying to source commentary from candidates, and do they really embody that? Do they believe in that? And if and when they do, that's when they advance in our process. But being so intentional and being so thorough, even though we do work in a somewhat simplistic world, has really benefited us, because we've been able to bring in people that are really good fits for our organization. They embody the fundamental principles of what we're about, and they're able to hit the ground running and thrive right away because they're very like-minded individuals.
Yeah, nice. Brady, so going off of that, you were talking about leading by example and, leading from the front. Can you talk about then conversely how to empower your team to take ownership and invest in success, whether they're the full-time intern, the director of major gifts, don't have oversight, or, someone like me overseeing major gifts, or someone in leadership position?
Yes, I think one thing that we are big on, and my boss at Pitt, Chris McFarland, said this, and it has stuck with me. Lead from your seat, or lead from where you're at. That is the expectation on our team. So everybody has the opportunity to be a professional problem solver and be a leader and to add value. There's no excuse not to. And so it doesn't matter what role you have. Everyone has day-to-day responsibilities. Everyone has successes, triumphs, challenges within their day-to-day role. But our expectation is that you communicate directly with your superiors and with your peers to help solve problems and offer solutions. And those solutions may not always get picked up by leadership, and sometimes that's discouraging. But the person who stops striving to offer those solutions and stops offering that positive add value mentality, that's when it starts to become a negative force on the office. And so we really try to empower individuals to understand that we want to seek their input. We want them to lead from where they're at, and everyone has those 2, 3, 4, 5 items that they deal with in their day-to-day that can help make our office great. And so we really preach that in all of our staff meetings and in all of our one-on-one meetings. The other thing that we really talk about is how every single person, every action is a representative of our entire office. And that leads up through our AD and our chancellor and our president up to the board of trustees, because to us, it's one simple phone call with a season ticket holder or a donor. And we have, in some instances, employees have 50 or 100 of those a day, and they become monotonous and annoying. And sometimes people are complaining. They're not always positive, but that may be the only interaction that the person on the other end of that phone has with the University of Tennessee or the athletics department. So we really want people to understand that we're here to try to offer problems, or solutions to problems. We're here to represent the university, the institution, and the athletics department, our student athletes and our coaches. And we want to make sure that we do that, knowing that although it is uniform to us, and it's just kind of the way of doing business on any given day, it might be the only interaction that person has with the institution for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Please add to that.
This is a good question. Since you've worked with both of us, I'm pretty anti-hierarchy. I don't view myself as bigger or more important than anyone in our office. I'm not saying anybody does, but that's kind of how I'm wired. So one of the things for me when I kept moving up in leadership as a fundraiser, especially, is like, I was so competitive about raising more money than everyone. It's all I thought about was literally just crushing the competition in the office, raising the most money. I had to teach myself how to not be as concerned with that and to be more concerned with the overall success of our office. And then what that allowed me to do is allow others to experience the success fundraising and enjoying that as much as me. And so, for example, my portfolio is less than 10 donors. I want kind of our senior fundraisers to work with our biggest donors. I'm obviously involved, but I want them getting experience talking to the biggest donors we have, which sometimes have the most maintenance or whatever you want to call it attached to it. But it's twofold. One, it gives them more experience, but it also allows that person to have another contact where I don't have to do everything. But I wrote down some notes while Brady was talking, like as far as like empowering them to take ownership. Information is key, like telling them critical information from the department allows them to feel empowered and to be in the know, access to higher level meetings when it's appropriate, exposure to the coaches and programs, student athletes, traveling with the teams to see what that's like. Because OMAF is literally not on campus right now. We just moved to a new office, so we have to work a little extra harder. We don't get a lot of the kind of organic hallway exposure to the department because we're not in the department. So I try to be very intentional about getting our staff around the department where they can. And then recognizing them for success. I mean, we're in an industry where you don't eat what you kill. And I think the outside world looks at that as crazy. Like you raise all this money, you don't have commissions. So I try to find ways to celebrate them without like a financial commission, if that makes any sense. So an example would be putting them on a trip with a team or creating a special trip for a donor that allows them to be around a bigger group of donors. So just finding these ways, because we have all these tools in athletics for these really cool events and access, pushing them up into those environments so they get exposed to that, which is, it also doubles as a reward. And, we've had a lot of success with that, but to me, it's all about exposing them to as much as possible. Like, where can we get them involved in the department so they can learn more? And, every meeting is not appropriate for that, but some are. But I try to share everything I can with them. We don't really have a lot of secrets. And there's nothing that they're really not allowed to be in. So I just try to be intentional about finding those opportunities.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point. We do that. We're intentional about the information share too, because oftentimes when you're part of a team that has 20, 30, 40 people, you're entry level, you're trying to find your way in the business and you think, well, I'm just told what to do. And mm-hmm. A lot of people understand how, and it's easy to teach someone how. We really try to emphasize on everybody understanding why. And that's, Denson, what you're talking about. Why did it come down from the university or the athletic director as to this price point for this ticket, or why did we make this decision? Because those are the people talking to volumes of people on the front line, and they've got more than 10 people in their portfolio. So we try to make sure that we're intentional about information sharing, FAQs, live action items that they're going to get asked on the phone and at donor events, and making sure they understand not only how to respond, but why. What was the philosophical why where appropriate from the department.
Yeah. And then kind of as we shift into culture and what you guys have built at both schools, that ultimately drives performance, right? So what takes that good fundraiser and looking to then become the elite fundraiser? What are a couple of skill sets that you think make that good fundraiser become that elite fundraiser?
Sure. I love this question. And because I think when, like, especially with interviewing, you ask, what makes a good fundraiser? You hear people skills and extroverted personality and all that. To me, the superpower, it's kind of how I'm wired, but to me, I think someone that is thoughtful in how they approach donors, I think thoughtfulness is the superpower to what we do. And what I mean by that is getting beyond the surface level relationship with a donor where it's just small talk and this is what we're doing, this is what you're interested in, like really digging into that person and what makes them tick. When I was starting out, my contact reports used to be extremely long. I would write down everything from where they vacation to what their dogs' names are to what their kids like. And then I would go back to these meetings and of course I would read them. And I'm not the smartest person in the world by any means, but I do have a pretty good memory. I would go back and read them. I would bring these things up and you could just see people like, gosh, how do you remember that? Like, how was your cruise to Paris last year? They'd be like, how do you remember that? Or whatever it was. But to me, that brings the guard down. Then you're talking to them as a person. You're not talking to them as a client or a customer. And And I do. I am passionate about human relationships. That's one of the things that makes me tick. So I enjoy those nuances or whatever the word is for getting to know people because I am generally curious. I ask a lot of questions, probably drive people crazy sometimes asking questions. But to me, when you thoughtfully approach them as a person and not a donor, that's when it really starts to click because these people become your friends. You work with them for 10, 15 years. You know everything about them. They know everything about you. Then when it gets down to, is it hard to ask people for money? Not at all. Like, these people so well, it almost becomes a conversation. It could be something they told you years ago they were interested in, or something that you picked up on that they never would have told you about. That helped me a lot. Like that's just how my brain operates. So when people do bring that up, I think that is a skill of an elite fundraiser.
Yes, I'm going to echo curiosity. I mean, that's something that pops into my mind. I think when I think of my own fundraising career, I am genuinely curious. And we work in such a cool industry where we get to ask wealthy people for philanthropic support for sports. And in doing so, the reason we do that is because they all have that wealth and that capacity to make those donations to each of our programs. But the intentional curiosity, the thoughtful curiosity about how they made their way in life and how they made their money and why they want to give it back. I think being organic in that curiosity is very helpful. You mentioned the word thoughtful. I think I think of follow through when you're working with a donor. That they tend to rely on you. They become either strong business acquaintances or friends, as Denson said. They rely on you, and so if you're unable to follow through on things you've told them that you would do, or things you said you would help them with, they lose that trust, and it's all about gaining the trust. And so one other item that comes to my mind that I think I've gotten better at or more intentional over the years, we can't always say yes. And if you do always say yes, you're inevitably going to wind up in a sticky situation. So in my first year in fundraising, someone told me one of the best skills they found in fundraising was the ability to say no to big donors without making it feel like you're saying no. So I always think of it as nuancing your way to a yes. You might not be able to say specifically yes to the question that they asked, but how do you distill it down in some way, shape, or form to a win, where they may have asked for a specific parking lot and their donor rank doesn't get them into that parking lot, but you know another donor that has multiple passes and they actually prefer to tailgate in that lot, so you make a creative swap in some way, shape, or form. That's a little bit more in the weeds and in the details, but it's just things like that where you to Denson's point, the donor so well, you're thoughtful and you're intentional and you're trying to solve problems for them. You're trying to get to yes. And I think as you do that, you generate more trust. And then the more trust you have, and they love this place and they have the capacity, they want to give money. So asking for money becomes almost the least difficult part of the equation.
Yeah. Is there, Brady, going off of that, is there like a different approach that you've taken or mindset when actually asking for the money and going in for the ask? Or is it kind of just you think it will then, after you go through the trust process, asking the right questions, it kind of just like naturally flows? Or like, what approach do you go for then when you're actually asking for the money? Is there something different that you thought has made you elite over time?
I think I'm a slow, methodical fundraiser, and it's for all the reasons that I just spoke upon. I really like it to be a true relationship. I'm asking those questions. I'm trying to find out what's right. I'm not trying to just put some numbers up on the scoreboard quick and get a quick win that isn't sustainable. So my approach to fundraising is slow and methodical, somewhat of a long game. But I think in doing so, you walk hand in hand with the donor, and they're basically giving you the answers to the test as you go. And I think at the end of the day, in our business, yes, you have to be able to make the ask for the business, ask for the gift, et cetera. That's sales 101. But I think there's no one specific way to do it, number one. Number two, I think every donor is truly different and unique. And so a customized approach, especially for a lot of the gifts that the levels we're asking for, it's not a one size fits all approach. But I think being all of the traits and techniques that both Denson and I talked about, I think are keys to solving this equation. And for me personally, I know that there's two schools of thought. Every visit you're making an ask and you're moving people through the donor pipeline and moving the ball down the field, so to speak. But for me, it's much more organic and free flowing and methodical, which leads to a little bit of a slower process. But once that snowball gets rolling downhill, it goes pretty fast.
Denson, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I agree with what he's saying. I think we operate, I don't want to sound the right way. We operate fast, but I think of fast as compared to when I was on campus. Like, we don't do a lot of big written proposals, these big, 10-page documents. Sometimes it calls for that. Our athletics has the ability to be faster because there can be a transactional side to it with point ranking and stuff like that. I would never in a million years, I think the cardinal sin of fundraising is pushing your agenda on someone else's money. Like, they're going to give to what they want to give to. If I met with a donor right now and they told me they wanted to support English, I would talk to them about English and I would send them to the campus side. If you do that, you don't care about the person, in my opinion. But I'm the same way. I guess just because I've been here so long, I think of it as it's definitely slow because I've known these people, so the relationship's there. But athletics does sometimes accelerate the conversation. So that when I say we're fast, I think we're fast compared to campus. We're not asking donors for gifts on every meeting. This playoff run was really interesting. From December 1st to January 15th, we had 112 Alt Society commitments. And that sounds like we were asking everybody for a gift on our visit. But what it was they were wanting to be a part of what we were doing at all these games, the home playoff game, New Orleans, and Scottsdale. They were like, hey, I got to join Ball Site. I want to be at that event. I got to be at this event. I got to be at this game. I got to get on this pregame. So that's where the fast side comes in from us. I totally agree with what Brady's saying, especially on the follow-through. It is by far the most critical part to the development, to the relationship, because if you don't do what you're going to say, they're going to move on to something else or someone else. And it's an easy thing to lose track of because everybody's so busy and you have so many people you're juggling. It can be hard to do what you're saying, but that's why I'm a big list maker and I use that list all the time.
All right. Denson, can you kick us off for this next one? So what's one approach or mindset shift that made you an elite fundraiser?
So when I was starting out in fundraising, I was trying to see as many people as possible. I would send out 1 million emails and go to a city and see 10 people or 12 people. Just take Atlanta, for example. And then as I got into my career, I started realizing that I would go to Atlanta and I would see 8 or 9 people, but 3 of them were really good prospects and the other 6 were exploratory or discovery. And as I built my fundraising career and got a little bit more experience, I started looking at my portfolio on a map instead of paper. And I've always liked to drive, so that was never a problem. So I started looking at it, I was like, okay, well, I've got these 2 people in Chattanooga and these 3 people in Charlotte and these 3 people in Atlanta. And I would just get in the car and I would go see the 8 best people. So we are big believers in travel here. We want our fundraisers on the road all the time. If you have a prospect and you can justify going there, I want you to go there. So a really specific example about a donor that I worked with, I've closed a major gift in Alaska, Idaho, California, and on the surface, that sounds stupid. Like, why would you go to Alaska? Well, it's really not that stupid if you think about it. We have people on the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, California. Well, once you're out there seeing them, a flight from San Francisco to Alaska may be only $100. This person specifically had reached out about making a gift, so I knew I was going to close the gift. But does it make sense for them to go to Mississippi to Alaska? No. But if you're out there already and it's just $100 to fly to Alaska and $85 to stay in the hotel. It made perfect sense to me. I built up the credibility to make that trip. Now, Alaska is the farthest extreme, but in the southern footprint, that's what I started doing. I would take my portfolio, I'd put it on a document, and it was put in little regions like Birmingham, Atlanta, Charlotte, Chattanooga, Dallas, Houston, Austin. And so when I went to Texas, I would fly into Dallas and I'd fly out of Houston. I never flew out of the same airport because I got a car already. I can drive 3 hours, see the right people, and these big gifts just started coming all the time. And again, I wasn't brand new. So the new people that we're about to hire, we want them to go see as many people as possible. But for me, that is when it clicked for me. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at my prospects different. I'm maximizing my travel expenses because it's not that much extra when you're there. So it's I mean, you've worked with me, so you've seen my maps and the trips that I plan. And
I think we need to do a presentation for the Cals Report just on your PowerPoint for travel presentation because it's impressive.
But it's just became my system, and everybody's system is different. But to me, it was all about making the best use of my time when I was gone. So I would never discredit seeing exploratory people because those are the future of your donor base. But for me, after 3 or 4 years, I always had a justification for where I was going. Well, why are you going to Phoenix and Boise, Idaho? Well, I have 6 prospects in Phoenix. So there's one person in Boise that's just sending us money for no reason. They're just $1,000, $2,000, and I could watch it go up. Well, I could fly from Phoenix to Boise for $110, spend the night. Well, that one visit turned into a $50,000 gift. Well, now there's a new major donor in Boise. But I didn't go to Boise all the time. But for us, it was all about the Memphis airport and where it had direct flights, and we had Texas and Phoenix and DC. Anyway, travel planning is like my hobby. I like it. It's fun. But it was the one thing that transformed my results. Like I found donors all over the country. We have vault members in 38 states and Puerto Rico. I haven't had a trip to Puerto Rico yet, but anyway, it's the thing that gets me the most excited because for us, the last thing I'll say, Tennessee is 3 times bigger than Ole Miss. We have, I think, about 140,000 alumni. I'm pretty sure Tennessee has about 600,000. Is that right?
In the system, yes.
So we have to punch way above our weight because we don't have the number of people. Think about that's 450,000 more people to call on. We have to go find these new people because forever Ole Miss operated in like the regional footprint and now it's more of a national brand. But for us, we have big donors in Billings, Montana, Boise, Idaho, Phoenix, San Francisco, Annapolis, Maryland. I mean, we're talking 7-figure donors that without that, we would have never found them. They were just kind of there and they're into it, but not super engaged. But anyway, as you can tell, it's my passion point. So I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
I got a couple bullets I'm going to send you for lining me up a nice vacation travel plan for this summer.
Oh, I do it. I do it a lot. Look at the road trippers. It's my passion. Sorry, I rambled, but
no, it is a very unique approach. So no, thank you for sharing that. So shifting gears and talk about driving revenue and everybody's favorite topic with revenue sharing and NIL. How has the fundraising conversation changed with NIL, rev share, all of those conversations? Brady, what have you seen over the last few years? It continues to just escalate.
Yeah, I think the change is mostly due to the rules. Since 2021 until present, the rules around the NIL and the who and the how and the what have changed, continue to change, and they morph all the time. So I think it's about constant communication and open communication. Most importantly, or very importantly, alignment of messaging, discipline of messaging. And, you want to make sure we're talking about donors and fundraising shops here. So we're in some sense, we're talking to fundraisers, young fundraisers. The concept of donor fatigue has been thrown around a lot. So you just want to be very intentional and concise and buttoned up in your messaging. The donors always want to know, how are you being, what kind of steward of my resources are you being? And so I think that's been some of the more important elements from us, streamlining communication with those that support, letting them know how we're interacting in the space, how we're being progressive and aggressive in the space, but disciplined with the use of their money. And we're not just going to we're not going to throw money around haphazardly and have to come back to them and say, oops, sorry, we need more. So I think it's a complicated space, mostly because the rules of engagement change daily. But I think in leaning on the relationships that we do have, it has been helpful as we pursue a solution to what's a pretty complex environment.
Yeah. Denson, what are you seeing at Ole Miss?
Yeah, it's interesting for us. The fundraising conversation for NIL and just say Vault Society, they're obviously very different. They fund different things. It's a different conversation. Ole Miss is a good example of this conversation, I think, because as crazy and unsustainable as it's talked about, and it's wild and crazy, it has elevated Ole Miss athletics to a level where we have always wanted to be. And now it's like we've got a seat at the big table. So it's a little, I'm not saying it's easier for us. Let me take that back. It is an easier conversation for us because it has worked. We are winning at a high level in a lot of our sports. It goes, the problem for us is it goes back to that number of alumni thing I just talked about. There are fewer people for us to ask money for, and even fewer that have the capacity to just give money without a tax deduction and things of that nature. But we haven't really seen donor fatigue. We have seen industry fatigue. Donors are they're tired of the way it is. But for us, they like winning. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So our donors have stepped up across the board. I mean, we have been really successful in this time frame. But it does feel like to me, it just feels like this year is going to be interesting. Like it's like extra challenging, just for the industry, not for Ole Miss. So different conversation. We have people that want to support it only and not as much the Vault Society side. We have the other way around. We have a lot that do both. But we kind of tailor the conversation to those that are really into that, to giving that way, and we lean on them hard. But it is a different conversation. I would say one is philanthropic and one almost feels transactional. I don't know if Brady agrees with that, but it's different for sure.
So switching gears, you both are sport administrators. So talking about sport oversight, Brady, you oversee football for sport administration duties, and then Denson, you oversee men's basketball for Ole Miss. So how do you both balance sport supervision with your revenue and fundraising responsibilities?
Good question. I think I've wanted the sport administrator title for some time. I mostly just thought it was a in vogue and cool thing to have. And once you jump into it, you realize just how much time it does take up. And in roles like Denson and I have, where you're external facing and so much of your time is spent trying to generate revenue, generate resources, build donor relationships, be out in the community, you start to think, oh boy, how does anybody who has similar responsibilities to this also manage a sport program, and specifically some of the higher profile sport programs within our conference? So I think Denson probably has some of the same thoughts, but it's you start to think through a football team roster, comings and goings, whether it's high school, new high school players, new transfer portal players, just departed players. You start to think about staff and personnel on coaching and support staff side. That's all kinds of personnel, player personnel, and FTE, full-time staff, per team personnel. There's a lot to deal with that. The football season, practices and traveling with the team. So it became very quickly, I committed a lot of respect to those that have been doing this a long time. As I mentioned, I'm new and that also operate in this space. So it just goes back to the classic concept of time management, understanding what's important and when it's important. And so just have to look at the calendar and reorganize time in such a way that when it's football season, it's important. Actually, Eric Wood over at Ole Miss, when I was talking to him about getting into sport administration, looking for some pointers, trying to pick up any tricks of the trade, he said it should be a little bit easy for you because you need to treat your head football coach like your biggest donor. And so that was something that resonated with me. So trying to pick up phone calls on the first ring, trying to be present, trying to problem solve, all the things we've talked about on this podcast for that you do for your biggest donors, that translates to the sport program and the head coach that you work with. So very good question. I had no idea the time commitment, the nuances, all the different tentacles that go into a sport program and sport management, managing those relationships. It's an awesome space. It's a very fruitful and rewarding space with what we do. You get to be around the coaches and the student athletes that traditionally I've spent all my time raising dollars for. You're entrenched with the program. You're going in like you're one of the team, and you triumph in the wins, and you're down in the dumps after a loss, just like coaches and players. It's just very rewarding in that sense, and so it's just a intentionality related to time management is the biggest difference that I notice.
Yeah, I echo just about everything he said. It was just immediately clear there is no balance. I mean, you just figure out how to do your job and do that job and make it work. And sometimes it's tilted really big the other way and then it tilts back. It completely opened my eyes up to a different side of the department that I wasn't used to. Like, as you know, Quinn, we were in the old basketball arena. We weren't connected to the department, and then now we're not as well. So again, it goes back to that little bit of a detachment from athletics. But when I got into this, the student athletes, the coaches, the roster, facilities, marketing, tickets, it was just like a hammer, like, wow, like this is just a whole different world. But it wasn't a negative thing at all. It was just like, I get it. Like, this is really, this is a big deal. It's very challenging. There's a lot to it. But you just learn so much so quick. Aside from the insight into the department, just watching the coaches and how they run their program, they're basically, you have to learn how you're their advocate. You're not their agent. So you have to have this balance where the answer is not always yes. You fight for the program always, but there are times where the answer may not be what the desired answer is, and you have to figure out how to relay that back and find another solution that may not be the full solution, but kind of the solution. But these coaches are always in fighting mode. They're always fighting for the program, whether it's wins, losses, players, marketing, salaries, ticket sales. I mean, I used to look at sports in seasons. The season is 365. Like, it never stops. Like right now for basketball, this is busier than the season. I mean, in the current world, it feels like we were way busier than we were during the season. But I've also learned a lot about direct conversations. That's something that I've never been really great at. To me, Eric Wood is the absolute best that I've ever seen with having direct conversations, but not delivering it in a way that is offensive or, you know what I'm trying to say? He can just tell you the truth. He can just tell it in a way where you're like, man, you're right. Like, I get it. Like, yeah, I should have done it that way. But you feel good about it. But Coach Beard always says nothing personal. He would just deliver the news as it is. And so I don't know if I answered your question, but I have found it hard at times because when you're in the program for fundraisers, when we're out traveling, if you're not constantly telling them what you're doing, they just think you're not around. They're like, I haven't seen you. Where you been? And like, so always stay in touch with the people in the program to know, hey, I have to go to Cincinnati this week to fundraise, but I'm still here. I'm not gone. So and I'm still learning. I'm brand new. I guess I just completed my second year with men's basketball. But it's a beast. It is a beast. And I do not want this to come across the wrong way at all. But I think that our jobs, I would argue they are the hardest jobs to have and do this, just because of the time and being gone and all the people that we juggle. I mean, fundraisers know you're juggling 150 or 200 people or your entire donor base. And our job is to make every one of them feel special. So sometimes you just get pulled in different directions and always trying to keep in touch. But it is incredibly rewarding. And last year when we went to the Sweet 16, it was as good as I've ever felt in my career. Like, I felt a part of the team, not just like the old department team. I felt like the actual team. And as Brady said, that's as good as it gets. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I think it kind of leads into the next question with how has the role kind of changed you as a leader? So whether that's, you're on the road with basketball and then you have to lean on other people in your department, when you're on the road a ton during the season, how do you lean on those fundraisers in the department to be like, okay, kind of lead from where you're at type of thing, or just other kind of tidbits in general? Like, how has that changed you as a leader? And then also, what have coaches kind of taught you while you've been in this role?
You have to delegate. I mean, you don't have a choice. You have to delegate. And that's not something that has always been easy for me, not in an ego way, but just like a control way. Like, some things I just don't have an easy time letting go of. But that goes back to like building your office culture and giving them more opportunities. You have to. You can't do it all, and you have to turn some of that over. I touched on a little bit about, the direct conversations and the bigger picture items that come along with the big sports and just everything that goes with it. But really being more intentional with your time too. Like, you can't waste any minutes just because there are none to waste. And not saying I'm the busiest person in the world, but it goes back to making everybody feel like they're getting adequate attention is tough. When, like, this week I was gone for 3 days traveling. It makes me feel a little paranoid inside. Like, I haven't been around for 3 days. Like, I need to check in, make sure they know that I'm still checking in. And the coaches look at the sport admin. I forgot. They look at the sport admin as the person. Like, you are over everything. So if they're frustrated about marketing, you're going to talk to you. And they may talk to those people, but you're the sport admin. So really working within the department too, and all the other leaders in the department on their areas is one of the good challenges too, because it just forces you into these conversations with your peers about, hey, he's really frustrated about this. What can we do to fix this problem? Like, I'm not going to go fix that problem. I don't oversee that area, but I'm going to work with the person that does and figure out a solution there, if that makes sense. But sometimes I think the coaches may expect, well, you're the sport admin, like, why hasn't it done yet? Go do it. Like, come on, Brady, fix the tickets, fix something. I don't know.
I agree with a lot of that. Delegate, I wrote down when you were talking, delegate, empower, not micromanage. And I think both of us have already touched on this. And in terms of how you hire, how you build a team, how you build a culture, I think both of us have extreme confidence that if we're out, whether we're traveling out fundraising, whether we're traveling out with a team, we have extreme confidence that the team behind us will execute to perfection and that day to day. That's the team. That's the way we've built it, and that's their opportunity to shine. And I know our team has really thrived with that environment, and that gives me every single day. That gives me more confidence with Matt Comer leading the day to day. It gives me more confidence to spend more time and to Denson's point, be visible. The best athlete ability is availability. The best sport admin ability is visibility. And that's what they're talking about. I think Eric Wood probably told me that one too. But the head coaches and the sport program, they want to know that you're in the trenches with them. They want to know that you're fighting for them. And we've touched a lot on how you build relationships with donors and how you develop trust with donors. It's truly like that with a head coach. If you can deliver, if you can be thoughtful, find out what's important to your head coach, what matters to them, and then try to be fanatical around delivering on what matters. Don't major in the minors and worry about things that don't matter. Be smart, be intelligent, and be focused on what matters to your head coach. Who are the people in his inner circle? What matters to them? Rally behind all of that, and then just try to be visible, communicate, and deliver wins. I think I love what you said, Denson, on navigating it internally. I think that's something I never spent a lot of time talking with those that deal with scholarships and scholarship counting, those that deal with eligibility, those that deal with recruiting rules and regulations and compliance, never as much as I have right now, but those internal relationships and understanding how to navigate that when paired with what matters to your head coach obviously puts you in a really good spot to deliver results that make you look good and make the coach, the head coach and his support staff and the entire program feel good about, having you as their representative in the larger athletic department.
Eric tells all the time, visibility is the main thing. Because even if you go by practice for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, just be in the building and you may run in and hop out. But he's like, they may not even talk to you, but I promise you, they will know you're there. And he's right.
Yeah.
Eric has a lot of great sport admin insight.
So all of this is happening in a pretty unpredictable landscape. I think we can all admit that. How do you operate when everything is constantly changing and it doesn't seem like, there's a clear roadmap on all of this? How do you operate, lead, take charge and all of that? Brady?
Yeah, I lean on something that our chancellor, Dondi Plowman, said probably 3 to 6 months ago in an all-staff meeting, really probably faced with that same question around uncertainty in higher ed. And she said her job as a leader is to absorb the negativity, absorb the doubt, insulate the staff from the negativity, the uncertainty, and allow to kind of define the current state of local reality. And I just thought that was pretty profound in the sense of there's a lot of noise and buzz. And as a leader, you have a chance to gobble up that and really absorb that and take it away or move it away from the staff that you're asking to go out and win on a day-to-day with whatever they're tasked with. So I definitely think really defining reality for the staff, being clear in expectations and what you're truly asking staff to do. What are the deliverables? What are the timelines? Clear expectations. But really it's your job to let them know that you're navigating those uncertainties and some of the problems and some of the harder questions, harder day-to-day tasks, and allow them to really simplify out their day-to-day and their job performance obligations. And I just thought the way that she said that in that moment, it was like, hey, don't worry about all the noise. Like you could get all caught up in this global scale noise and how that might affect you. Let me deal with that. I am dealing with that. You're good. Focus on your local day-to-day and do it to the best of your ability, and that will produce the best of outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly what I was going to say. If you dig down in the weeds too much, it can get so overwhelming that it can deter you from what you were hired to do. And at the end of the day, like, I think that we have the best jobs in the world. We get to meet great people, do a lot of really interesting, fun things. We had 2 entry-level fundraiser positions open right now. In 1 week, we had 136 people apply. So I try to remind people all the time, you can follow Ross Dellinger and you can follow stuff, and some of it is just so overwhelming that it can frustrate you. But at the end of the day, we're still hired to go out and raise money and do all this great stuff. And that's what I tend to focus on, because I wanted to do this job really from the time I was in college. So I remind myself all the time, because as frustrating it is, and uncertain and all that. At the end of the day, it's still, I mean, I've never once thought I worked in 18 years. I would do this for free. I love it that much.
Don't say that too loud. We'll be shifting some of that money over to NIL before you know
it. So parting wisdom, what advice do you both have for young administrators, talking whether it's back 15, 20 years to younger Denson and Brady, or in the current landscape? What advice do you both have for the young administrators?
I'll go. I touched on pretty much all of this, and I wrote it down somewhere. But really, thinking back over the course of the 10 plus years that I've been doing this, from then to what I think about now, and specifically as we hire the then Brady, in 2010 or whenever that was, passive networking with people because of your curiosity when you don't need stuff. Being a professional problem solver in your job, adding value. Don't bring problems, solve problems. Those are the two really most important thing. And then the continuing education piece. Just make sure you understand what's going on in the industry, be cutting edge and be educated as to what is going on in the world, because that ultimately leads back into the other two and can help you advance those priorities.
Yeah, I would kind of reiterate what I said a minute ago. Don't get lost in the frustration. These are still the best jobs in the world, and there's a reason that everyone is wanting to join some of these athletic departments and work in college athletics. But the main thing, it's something my brother told me when I was in college, when I figured this out. He was like, "So make whatever you're passionate about, make it your career. And if you do, you'll always enjoy what you do." And I've had jobs before where I didn't like it, and I know what that feels like. I don't ever want to feel like that again. But if you're truly passionate about college athletics, find a way to get in, stick with it. It's worth it. And as much as I knew I wanted to do this, I love it way more than I ever could have imagined. It's given me things and relationships, experiences that I never thought were possible. So stick with it. It's worth it, and it's a lot of fun too.
Well, thank you both for your time and perspective. Really appreciate it, and I know it's more valuable than you know. So thank you. Thank you both.
Thanks, Quinn. Thanks, Kels.
Thank you, Quinn. Great to see you, Denson.
You too, B.
Thanks to Quinn, Denson, and Brady for an inside look at the realities of revenue generation in today's college athletics landscape. What stands out is how much the space continues to evolve, but at its core, it still comes back to trust, relationships, and consistency. Thanks for listening to episode 20 of the Cals Report. You can find the Cals Report on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media at 80 Symposium on X, at the Cals Report on Instagram and on LinkedIn. You can also visit us anytime at 80symposium.us for event details and more content from across the Cals community. Until next time, stay connected, stay encouraged, and keep leading the way in college athletics.